What was your high school's wildest NSFW scandal? The football star at my high school was accused of sexually assaulting a 4-year-old child and went to jail for it based off very little evidence. He was sentenced to 25 years. It was my junior year. And it was his senior year. He had a full ride scholarship to play football and he, along with everyone else, really thought he'd make it to the NFL. He served 3 years of that sentence when the county's new DA looked over his case and saw that there was basically no evidence. So he was released. This was in summer 2017 and he was officially exonerated last year. Turns out it was his best friend, who looked just like him and lived with him. Who did it? Dude is doing really well now. His girlfriend stuck with him through the whole thing and they are married now. There's actually a documentary on Showtime about it that just came out. Girls track coach gave members of the girls track team rides home and massages. Got escorted out of the school in cuffs one day. One of the girls were fricking the IT admin. She was 16-17 when that started. Heard an update from an old classmate nearly 20 years later and not only have they stayed together, they are married. Got 3 kids and live the upper middle class suburban dream life. An English teacher would make out with a student during his planning period while his wife was teaching classes next door. After school, he would make excuses to his wife about having to stay late at school and meet the student at hotel rooms. He was led out of the school in handcuffs in front of the entire school. Funny enough, the cops gave him the opportunity to go out the back door of the school and not make a scene, but he refused. Our science teacher was a porn star in a past life. Someone in the school found a video she was in his dad's porn stash. It was a huge scandal in our conservative town. She was let go, which sucked because she was really an excellent teacher. It became a national news story. She was on Dr. Phil about it. Despite numerous campaigns by the students, she was never hired back. Not even a scandal. Just a widely accepted rumor. English teacher was purported to select one male per senior class to try and woo and sleep with. My friend claimed his older brother was that year's selection, prodding him to strive to do the same. Unfortunately for him, another, uninterested, buddy actually was, resulting in her petting his arm, giggling at his jokes, bending over in front of him, etc. She left to become a principal at a different district a few years later. One of the pay teachers was very not secretly in a relationship with one of the upper 6th girls, a senior. The day after she left school he left his missus and he and the girl shacked up and later married. Last I looked they were still happily married with a couple of kids. This happened after I graduated, but a student attacked another student with a frying pan. There weren't any frying pans in the school, so it had to be a premeditated frying pan attack. Students got caught fricking behind the theater by the vice principal. He went on the PA system to remind all students to refrain from doing anything inappropriate while at school or in the theater room. You could hear the entire school erupt in fricking laughter. No one knew who it was though. A teacher who was always suspected of having inappropriate relationships with students managed to get on the wrong plane with a student during the senior trip. They ended up in Greece when everyone else was in Italy. 9 months later she had a baby but didn't tell anyone who the father was. Kids had hanky-panky on a bus. Led to a lot of news beyond our immediate area. 2 students coordinated jerking off an English class. My homeroom teacher in 6th grade was caught having hanky-panky with a 12th grader. The soccer coach was sleeping with 4 of the soccer players, 16-18 years old. 2 of them being other teachers' daughters. They had it completely secret until his wife found a journal where wrote about each time he slept with each girl on the team. At the end of the school day we walked out and there was 4-5 cop cars and they were walking him out of his building in cuffs. If I remember correctly, the girls didn't have to come back to school for the rest of the school year. It was close to the end anyway. Everyone found out their names pretty quickly. Biggest scandal at that school in decades. Somebody pooped in a Pringles can and hid it in the bathroom. Someone put gear oil in the machine shop teacher's coffee. Damn near killed him. Long story short. A student was caught having hanky-panky with a sheep at the tiny farm the school ran for the agricultural elective students. Edit. So. Since it's been asked a few times. The only slightly longer part of the story was that the class was, as stated, an agriculture elective. Once a student had completed enough required worksheets, they got to go over to the farm and do some work instead of sitting in class writing. Not exactly easy. But it was nice when the weather was cool. This guy had the class for both morning sessions. So he said he'd just stay over at the farm and get a ride back at the end of the next class. Well, amongst other incidents, he was not the brightest bulb in the box. Seems he lost track of time and the next class came walking up to the barn with him balls deep in the sheep. Word was, the sheep didn't seem to notice. Our history teacher made multiple sexual remarks to a female classmate. One time he pulled her shirt up because her cleavage was distracting. He retired not long after that. A student was having hanky-panky with many girls in the gym locker room or music practice rooms. This was discovered due to an explosion in STD rates. I don't recall if it was chlamydia or gonorrhea. Yuck. Let's see. The greasy hair comb-over principal was banging the young counselor during school in the office. Forgot to close the blinds. Was seen by half the school. And his wife who was a pay teacher. My high school friend who got pregnant who was propositioned by the football coach as it doesn't matter now you're already knocked up. Not sexual. But someone took a huge poop in one of the bathroom sinks. Very much abnormally large. Especially given that it was in a sink. It was basically a mountain of poop and at the very top someone put a perfectly ripe strawberry. There was this younger, smocking hot female teacher at my high school. Her BF was on The Real World. And she did a visit on the show wearing a super skimpy bikini and talking about her BF's PP. Everyone had already had a crush on her but this pushed it over the edge. I don't know if she quit teaching but I don't remember seeing her around school after that year. This was a year or two after I graduated. But there was this one teacher at my high school who was fired for, in no particular order of weirdness, buying booze for students, smoking weed with students, buying weed for students, buying weed from students, writing a paper for a student for a different class in exchange for weed, driving certain students who skipped school to a bar in a different city several hours away, sending a student a completely unsolicited text that said, "I've never wanted to cheat with anyone in my life. But I want to with you." Offering to buy a student a $500 knife and give it to him at school. Explaining it thus, "If I can walk around campus with marijuana on me, you can walk around with a shipping box with a knife in it. Kiddo. You can't walk around campus with marijuana on you." She was the scripture teacher. That position at that school, at least when I was there, was as cursed as the defense against the dark arts job at Hogwarts. A kid apparently jacked off in the back of the class. Someone apparently got it on their phone. Cops came. Person who recorded it got charged. He sat where I did, but in a different class period. So I switched my chair for a new, less nutty chair. Turns out, every other class before me had also switched the chair. So we couldn't find the nut chair. We even made black lights with our phones to look for the chair. It was great. We had a football coach fricking one of the cheerleaders. I was so blind to it all. He was my positional coaches and I had respect for him, so I never believed it. He never talked about it and I was friends with that cheerleader and she always denied it. 2 years after graduation they got married because she was already pregnant with their second child. She dropped out of college her first semester and became a stay-at-home mom. Her Facebook page now is just really sad. It has been almost 16 years since we graduated and she still seems miserable. All her dreams just vanished and she is still married to that coach who is getting older and fatter. He is over 60 and she is in her 30s. I went to a charter school in PA. The founder stole hundreds of thousands of dollars from the school district and used it for himself. In the back of the school, he built an apartment with a stripper pole, but it was hidden in the school. You could only get to it through one door hidden in a closet. He was eventually caught stealing money and he committed suicide. Used to run into our ed tech at illegal raves doing coke a fair bit. Are to be 16 again. Principal sexually harassed a teacher. Gym teacher was fired for being too close to female students. I couldn't get any more details, but I did witness his strange behavior towards females in the class many times. One girl had a key to his office. Students having hanky-panky in bathroom. Second theater. Nobody ever got caught in the theater as far as I know. There was also a stabbing my freshman year. I didn't witness that itself, but I was in the hallway that it happened on and witnessed the loud and panicked crowd. Edit. For any more people wondering if we went to the same high school. I went to high school in Tennessee. My biology teacher was having hanky-panky with a sophomore. It became a personal problem for me because I wanted to take AP Bio the next year, and I needed a recommendation from my current teacher to take the class. I asked the AP instructor if I should go to the state penitentiary to get my letter. Edit. That requirement was waived for me, but I'm okay saying terrible things about the ordeal instead. Someone pooped on the toilet cover and masturbated over a picture of our English teacher. One of our history teachers had been a stripper before becoming a teacher. This was years earlier. She was a stripper before she even went to college to get a teaching degree. We found out about this because the father of one of my classmates had been a regular customer of hers and recognized her at a student-teacher conference. He told his son, who obviously told the entire school. We had a charity thing in high school where you'd raise money for cancer. The amount being raised was shown on a thermometer and every limit would force a teacher to shave their head. On the very top was this French teacher. Anyways, the initiative was due to finish after lunch recess. A bunch of people are in gym shaving their heads and trying to raise money. Bills are flying down from the bleachers and we raised just enough money right at the bell. The French teacher was not down and ran away, causing all the students to chase her into the bathroom, banging on the door and poop. She soon after had a bit of a mental breakdown. Someone at school found out her lava life profile and she left. Also, some student stole all the money raised in the initiative from the gym. This is totally fricked up. Two senior boys pinned a younger kid down on a pool table, pulled his shorts down and hammered a giant glue stick up his ass with a hockey stick. Needless to say, there were a few expulsions. My senior year we had a freshman who became obsessed with another girl in my class. He would call her all the time, not sure how he got her number, show up at her house, and follow her around school. His harassment started to become sexually graphic and increasingly angry violent. She told him to stop and a few guys on the baseball team he was on also told him to cool it. This only intensified and resulted in him sending her a very graphic and threatening voicemail. The girl finally turned everything over to the police and school. His baseball coach was disgusted and permanently kicked him off the team, and he was suspended from school for 2 weeks. He went home that day, called the girl again and said, "I hope you're happy you ruined my life," and shot himself in the head. An English teacher had hanky-panky with a student as soon as she turned 18 and she went on to become a Victoria's Secret model. He had a reputation for doing so every few years. He only got fired last year. My first day of 9th grade, a senior took a hit of acid, took his clothes off, ran around naked yelling, "I want to see everyone. I want to see everyone." He was finally chilled out and they got a robe on him. Called his folks. Maybe he was suspended. Same him a few weeks later. 3 years after that he came to our house to install cable TV. My dad always kept some cheap beer around for service people and the like. I gave him and his coworker and said we didn't have any LSD. He laughed his ass off and said, "That's probably a good thing." A few years ago I had the TV on in the background with a true crime show going. And it's covering some kind of hanky-panky ring that ended with the murder of one of the participants. Brought it up with my wife and she was like, "What? I don't remember." Oh. Right. That incident.
Hi there. Look, if you enjoyed the video, well, why not go ahead and hit that like and subscribe to Reddit Stories. In fact, if you want to see even more responses to this thread, well then, take a look. There's the link in the description below. And remember, show some love to those authors while you're there. And I look forward to seeing you next time.